Okay, we're at the gathering of the Trojans, the T-28's, but we'll get to that in a minute. I've got one of the biggest announcements this channel has ever made on this episode of Taking Off. Hey everyone, Dan Millican here. We are at Midway Airport, Juliet Whiskey Yankee, where there's a gathering of Trojans, T-28's, and we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do that, I have a big announcement to make. And Christy wanted to be here, but there's a pilot shortage, and so she has to work. But I want to introduce you to somebody, Baylee Ward. Baylee, I'm so glad you could be here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right, so guys, here's the deal. Baylee is going to be joining Christy and I as the third person on Taking Off. Baylee,
Woo!
Welcome to the team.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
You know, we've had you on the show before,
Yes.
and you can watch that, like, if you click right up there somewhere. And you are a 17-year-old.
I am.
Private pilot.
Yes,
holder.
sir.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself and where you want to go with aviation.
So, as Dan said, I'm 17. I'm a licensed private pilot. And I really just would like to start my journey in aviation, maybe get a career in aviation, sell some awesome planes, learn more about them.
Okay, and we hear the T-28's going on in the background. Nothing like the sound of a T-28. So, Baylee, you say you want a career in aviation. Are you talking
Right.
airlines?
So, not necessarily airlines, but I'd like to go into the marketing aspect of aviation.
Marketing?
So maybe like demo piloting, stuff like that.
Okay, so we're going to have now Baylee videos on the Taking Off channel. Baylee, what do you see your videos being?
Well, really, I mean, my goal is to get more younger people involved in aviation. So targeting videos where I maybe teach young people more about the things I know, where I'm at, is kind of what I'm hoping to do. When I think of technical side, I think of what's going on to make this thing fly. You know, not necessarily on the pilot's aspect of it, but I'd also like to learn more about what goes on inside this thing to help it go. So really learning more about the engine, the mechanics, the different systems.
You're going to be looking at some of this kind of stuff. That's
Yes.
awesome, because that's what interests you.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. So, all right, well, we'll look forward to that. Now, what I'll do, let me see if we can scrape up somebody who knows the technical stuff about the T-28
Sounds
and can
great.
talk to you about it.
Perfect.
Okay, let's go find that person.
Hi, Baylee. I'm Robert Johnson. I fly with the Trojan Flyers. We fly two North American T-28 airframes, one of my favorite airplanes I've ever flown. I fly as a Trojan 2 position in our air show routine. So I fly on Chip Lamb's wing, and we fly air shows around the country in these amazing airplanes.
Obviously, you're well versed in the Trojans. Can you tell me a little bit more about the engine?
You sure? Well, somebody sure can. I sure can. This airplane is a North American T-28. This airplane was built in 1953, and the engine is a Wright 1820-86B Curtiss Wright engine.
Wow,
so
that's
it is a
awesome.
1,425 horsepower engine,
Wow.
a 9-cylinder radial engine. So just think
Awesome.
about that. Each one of these cylinders has about as much horsepower as a normal family sedan does. So if you look at
Wow.
the size of the cylinders, massive cylinders, and each one of those has about 140 horsepower per cylinder.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, awesome. Can you tell me how these started? Like, why did the Trojans become?
Sure, the North American T-28, built by the North American Company, was actually built originally for the Air Force and
Okay.
came into the service in 1949 with the A model. Air
Awesome.
Force used them for a couple of years and liked the airplane. The Navy and Marine Corps came in and said, we love the airframe, we don't like the engine. So the
Okay.
A model had a little engine, only 800 horsepower engine. So
Gotcha.
not that little, but little compared to this engine.
Right.
So the Navy and Marine Corps came in and said, we like the airplane, let's go ahead and make us an airplane. So North American made the Bravo model, a T-28B, and they put the Wright 1820 engine on it, the 1,425 horsepower engine, and some
Okay.
other modifications to the airplane, delivered them to the Navy, and the Navy loved the airplane and said, hey, we want an airplane that can land on carriers.
Right.
So North American did a couple modifications to the airplane, including putting a tail hook on the airplane, and made the airplane for carrier qualification. So the airplane served with the Navy and Marine Corps from about 1953 all the way through about 1984. So a very, very long-serving airplane. The Navy loved the airplane and were used by generations of Naval and Marine Corps aviators to learn how to fly and to trap on the aircraft carrier as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So these were used primarily as training planes.
Primarily as training airplanes. They were actually used by all services. I was talking to a gentleman the other day who flew in the Coast Guard with the airplane as well. So all four services, including the Army, have actually used the airframe. They were primarily used as a trainer. However, they were used quite a bit in Southeast Asia as well.
Okay.
So we took a lot of the old A models that the Air Force had retired and turned them into T-28D models. Put armament on the airplanes, made a bunch of modifications to them. Again, put the big engine on the airplane, sent them to Southeast Asia. The VNAF, the Royal Lao Air Force, the Thai Air Force all use them. In fact, we use them in Southeast Asia as well in a kind of a secret program in Laos. So these airplanes were all over Southeast Asia as a light attack airplane, even though they're built as a trainer.
That's awesome. So they are able to hold ammunition and things like that.
They are able to hold armament, depending on the airframe. There are hard points on the wings, and there's an armament package for the airplane. If you read the manual for the airplane, there actually is a whole section about armament.
Wow.
Now, the airplanes we fly don't have armor, don't have hard points on them, but you will see some in civilian-owned hands that do have the hard point and obviously dummy bombs and rockets at this point.
That's amazing. So obviously these engines have stood the test of time. Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. They're big, they're air-cooled, they're great engines. Their weak spot, really, the engine is it's called the master rod bearing of the engine. And if that loses oil or has a problem with it, the engine will seize. So there are some problems with that. Other thing about a radial engine is, if you look at an engine like this compared to a flat engine, oil all drains down. So if you look at the bottom two cylinders there, if you let the airplane sit for a while, the oil can pool in those bottom two cylinders. And liquid can't compress. So when you start the engine, you have the cylinder trying to compress liquid, it can't compress it, and you'll actually bend the connecting rod. So you'll see any radial engine you'll always see the pilot either hand prop it or hand walk it through, depending on the airframe. Or in our airplanes, we actually run the starter through 12 blades to make sure there's no liquid down in the bottom of those cylinders. And we have a clutch starter, so if it cannot do the compression stroke on the cylinder, the prop will actually stop, the starter will disengage. You'll see a lot of the old World War II airplanes, the B-25s, et cetera, B-24s, they'll actually hand walk the props through to make sure they don't have hydraulic lock, don't have liquid in the bottom cylinders.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so impressive. Thank you so much for telling me about this.
Thanks, Baylee.
Can't wait to learn more.
Great talking with you.
Thank you.
All right, Baylee, so again, welcome to the team.
Yes, thank you
now,
so much.
One thing you got to learn is we got to thank our sponsors because we can't make this happen without it.
Right.
You know the first sponsor?
Maybe these guys, Flying
Yeah,
Eyes?
let's talk about them.
Well, I don't know what to say there. Sorry.
We have to train her a little bit. Okay, Flying Eyes. So they have, they started with sunglasses. Now they make the ophthalmics, and you got ophthalmics.
Yes.
So you have a prescription glass situation.
Yes.
So now they have the great magnetic clip-ons, and
check that out.
yeah, okay. So these are made for pilots and anybody that wears a headset or a helmet, because they just slide right in. They're super thin. And you probably couldn't hear me because I took the microphone away. Also, Colton Mortgage for your residential or refi needs, Colton Mortgage. And we're also sponsored by Marshall Protective Services, MPS Protects. We couldn't do it without them. All right, so Baylee, this is the point where we close it out and we say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?
Adios, guys. Thank you so much, and I'm excited to be a part of this channel.
All right, see you guys later.